When flipping cars, the most important decision you're gonna make is which cars you actually decide to flip. When I first got started buying and selling cars, I made a huge mistake of buying cars that would take too long to sell and didn't really generate me as much profit as I initially thought. Now, instead of you guys having to go through this headache and trying to learn your market, I'm gonna just give you the 5 best cars to flip in 2025. Now, for our 5th spot, I'm gonna recommend the BMW 335 and the BMW 535 from 2007 to 2013. Now, I know when a lot of people hear BMWs, they think about high maintenance and unreliable cars, but these cars are actually pretty reliable if the owner took really good care of them. And on top of that, there's a lot of demand in the market for these cars, but there isn't a bunch of supply. And there's a lot of times where I would see a lot of grandpas or older people who have these cars between these years who sell these cars extremely cheap, and we're able to capitalize on these opportunities and make $3,000 to $4,000 on these cars extremely easy. But I do want to point out some of the common issues you will find with this car. The high pressure fuel pump is something that has to be maintained on this car. Typically, the high pressure fuel pump will start to give you issues between 45 to 70,000 miles. Some of the symptoms that the car may have if the high pressure fuel pump is going out might include long cranks, engine hesitation, or the car might actually be in limp mode. So make sure to go ahead and ask sellers, especially if you're on the private market, if they maintain the high pressure fuel pump, because you don't want it to go out bad on you, because this can be a really expensive fix if it does. Another pretty common issue is going to be the water pump. Now, this typically starts to go bad at 70 to 100,000 miles. So if you do buy a car between this mileage or more miles than this, make sure to go ahead and ask the owner if they maintain the water pump. Some symptoms you might see if the water pump is going bad is the car might have reduced power, or the car might actually overheat. So if you see any one of these two things, this might be a really clear indicator that the water pump is going out. Now, another really common issue with these cars are going to be the valve cover gaskets. These tend to leak, and if you guys smell any oil in the car, if you guys smell any burnt oil, this is going to be a really clear indicator that the valve cover gasket is going bad. Now, typically this will start to pop up anywhere from 60 to 90,000 miles. Now, if you are going to buy a 335 or 535 with more miles than 90,000 miles and the owner did not replace the valve cover gasket, I would not recommend buying the car. Now, for our 4th spot, I'm going to highly recommend Infiniti G Series. Now, I recommend the G35s and G37s from 2006 to 2013. Those are typically going to be the best years to buy these cars, just because you can find them really cheap at the auction, and you can also find them pretty cheap on Marketplace. Typically, I make anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 on this car in profit, depending how much I pay. There are a couple of issues I do want to speak about that are pretty common with these cars. One really big issue that I want you guys to take note of is the valve cover gasket leaks. Now, typically this will start to pop up within 90 to 130,000 miles. So if you guys decide to buy a car with over 130,000 miles, make sure that you go ahead and ask the owner what maintenance he's done. The second issue that is super common with these cars are going to be the power steering hoses. Now, these are super duper common with these cars from all years, so just make sure to look out to see that the power steering levels are not low. If they are, that might be a sign that the power steering hoses are defective and are no longer working and there's some sort of leak. So just make sure you go ahead and look for that, and if there is, it isn't a major issue as long as the owner didn't neglect it for a long period of time. Now, typically this will start to pop up anywhere from 75,000 to 120,000 miles. If it hasn't popped up then, it will pop up very soon. So make sure if you do look at a G Series that has over 120,000 miles, you make sure to go and ask the owner if they did any maintenance on the power steering hoses, because they do tend to leak. Now, for our 3rd spot, I'm gonna highly recommend the Toyota Corollas from 2006 to 2015. Now, these cars are really reliable and don't really have too many issues you have to worry about. Now, I do want to point out some common issues with these cars that you do have to look out for when you are looking at these Toyota Corollas. Now, it is pretty common for Toyota Corollas from 2009 to 2013 to have transmission slipperage from 100,000 to 150,000 miles. So make sure if you're going to go look at these cars, you are being extremely careful. You don't want to run into an issue where you buy a Toyota Corolla and the transmission slips on you or slips on the person you sell the car to, because that can be a major issue. When you go look at these cars, I would definitely ask the owner to see if he has ever changed the transmission fluid during his ownership, especially if the car is in between 100 to 150,000 miles or has more miles than that, because you might run into an issue if the transmission maintenance was neglected. The transmission will start to slip on these cars. Now these cars are extremely reliable otherwise. The second common issue with these cars is going to be water pump leaks. It is super common from Toyota Corollas from 2006 to 2013. After that, they definitely made huge improvements on the car. This is a super cheap fix, but we can use this to leverage and negotiate against the seller. The easiest indicator to see if there's a bad water pump or if the water pump is leaking is to see if there's any coolant leaks. If you guys see any coolant leaks or any dried up coolant, that probably is a sign that the seller has some sort of water pump issue. So make sure to ask the seller more questions about their maintenance on the water pump and if they did any replacements. Typically, these water pumps have to be replaced at 80,000 to 120,000 miles. Now, one super common issue with these cars is going to be the interior. The interiors on these cars sucks and they don't hold up, so they tend to wear pretty quickly. Now, once these cars get anywhere from 80 to 100,000 miles, you will start to see, especially if you live in a hot climate, you will start to see that the dashboard will start to crack. You also might see that the display screen is starting to fade. Now, this is a common issue in all Toyota Corollas from pretty much all years. Another thing that you have to look out for is the power windows and also the locks. Now, a lot of times with these cars, the locks will stop to work because they are pretty faulty. So make sure to go ahead and check for these things. These are not going to be deal breakers when you are looking for these cars, and they're extremely cheap to fix, besides the transmission slipping. But you guys do want to use these things as leverage to negotiate against the seller, and you guys know exactly what to look for. Now, for our number 2 spot, it is going to be the Toyota RAV4 from 2005 to 2012. Now, these cars are gold mines. They are extremely hard to find with low miles. Every time that I get my hand on a RAV4 between these years, I literally sell the car within 3 days, just because there aren't that many really good condition RAV4s on the market. So if you guys see this car on marketplace and it's a really good price, or you see it at the auction, make sure you go ahead and take the opportunity to go ahead and buy the car, because this car will sell within days of you having it. One really common issue with these cars from 2005 to 2006 is going to be the auto transmission on the 4-wheel drive Toyota RAV4s. These transmissions typically go bad from 90 to 150,000 miles. Avoid the 2005 to 2006 with over 160,000 miles, just because the transmission is probably going to go out soon. That year is known, especially the 4-wheel drive, to have a really bad transmission. After 2006, they did improve the transmission tremendously. Another really common issue with this car is water pump failure. Now, typically this will pop up on the Toyota RAV4s from 2006 to 2011. Now, typically this might start to pop up from 80 to 120,000 miles. Make sure to go ahead and ask the owner or check to see if the water pump has been maintained. And these cars are typically super duper cheap to fix if you do have to fix anything besides replacing the engine or transmission. You don't want to take on any additional expenses, because that will cut into your profit margins. Now, lastly, with these cars, they do have rear suspension arm issues. Toyota did make a recall for any Toyota RAV4 from 2006 to 2011. Now, if you guys do want to check if the car that you are buying did get the recall fixed, you guys want to go on the National Highway Safety Administration website and go ahead and look up their VIN check, and you guys will be able to see if the car had the recall fixed or not. I will leave the link in the description for you guys if you guys do need that, but that's the easiest way to check if any car that you are buying did get the recall fixed, or if it didn't. If it didn't get the recall fixed, you guys can use this as major leverage against the seller. And for the number 1 spot, as you guys know, I'm Dominican and we love these cars, is going to be the Honda Accord from 2006 to 2015. Honda Accord sells so fast, you would have thought that people were giving them away for free, especially if they have low mileage. These cars are super duper cheap to fix, easy to maintain, and as long as you avoid some of the common issues I'm going to point out for these cars, you should have no issue if you're buying a car for yourself or if you're buying a car to flip it. And on top of that, you guys can easily find this car on marketplace and the auction, because they're available everywhere. Now, the first thing you want to look out for with these Honda Accords, especially the V6s from 2006 to 2007, is going to be transmission failure. Now, this is a pretty common issue, and after this year, Honda did step up their game when it comes to the transmission. But these 2 years in particular are known for their horrible transmissions. So don't buy 2006 or 2007 Honda Accord V6 just because the transmission is likely to go out. And typically this will start to pop up at 90 or 130,000 miles. Another really common issue with these cars is going to be the power steering. Especially from 2008 to 2010, they're known for having really bad seals, and the power steering will start to leak. The easiest indication if the power steering is going bad or is currently bad is if you have really stiff steering. So if you go look at a Honda Accord and it is extremely stiff to drive, that probably means that the power steering has gone bad. Also look at the power steering fluid and make sure that the levels are where they're supposed to be. Now lastly, one really common issue with these Honda Accords are going to be the starter or the alternator. So make sure if you are buying a Honda Accord from 2006 to 2015 that you do check for any symptoms of a bad starter or a bad alternator. Now typically this problem will start to arise at 100 to 150,000 miles. So make sure that if you are buying a car within 100 to 150,000 miles or more, make sure to check to see if the alternator is going bad or the starter is going bad. With that being said, now that you guys are set up for success in this business and you guys know the top 5 best-selling cars in 2025, I do want to end off this video with a couple of key points. The first thing is make sure you ask all sellers what maintenance they have done to the car and make sure that the maintenance they have done align with when the maintenance was supposed to be done to make sure that you are buying a car that is very well maintained. The second and most important thing, before you guys actually go out there and start looking at cars, make sure to do some research on what common issues will pop up with the car that you're going to go look at. This is going to set you up for success and you know exactly what you should be asking the seller as far as maintenance history goes. With that being said, if you want to be the best negotiator in this business, you have to know your game and you have to know about the cars that you're going to go look at, especially if you are buying in the private market, because you do have the ability to negotiate on prices, and the better you are at providing information to sellers, the more likely you are to get the price you're looking to get when you are negotiating on these cars. I hope that I was able to provide some value to you guys in this video, and I did help out at least one person not make the mistakes I made when I first started flipping cars. With that being said, it's your boy Dofo, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.